All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt
And Jake here.
We're coming to you doing another Torah talk with you.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about Noah.
This would be the second Torah portion.
Yes, week 2, if you will. And so
it's a very weak 2.
Week 2. Yes, not a strong 2. So we like this Torah portion. Do you still think this looks like the French Alps?
I don't know.
No.
I've never been there, but
No.
It's pretty sweet. It's a sweet picture.
It does look like something bad is about to happen to the ark.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like it's gonna make it.
No. Maybe this is right before it finds the dry land. I don't know.
Sure.
So anyway, we are going to look at the story of Noah in week 2. So Noah, we see, was a righteous man. In the words of Miss Poole, he was a righteous dude.
Righteous.
If you know who Miss Poole was.
Righteous man in his generation.
That's right. And so we talked about that, what does that mean? And so that's something to kick the tires on for sure.
Yeah.
But he was asked to build a covering, and you go back to the wedding model. A man had to build a house for his bride.
Yes. And he did. He built a covering.
Yep.
And he covered it with pitch, and that word there is atonement.
Very good.
So.
And Yahuwah closes the door.
Yes.
And seals it with his atonement.
Yes.
Lots of things you could say there. And they go through a water ritual, a water baptism, if you will.
Yes.
A mikveh, a giant mikveh, that the whole world goes
under. The giantest of mikveh.
Yes, so there's no bigger one than this one. So if you look at the people on board with him, you've got Ham, which doesn't seem like a good name anyway, if you're following all these things.
Although ham is really just the way that the meat's prepared, because you have turkey ham and things like that. But it's the seasoning and the way the meat's prepared.
Right, that makes sense. So
although we know what happens with ham, so I mean,
yes, it's bad. Don't eat ham. So when you look this up, one of the things is it could mean hot or protective wall. And some other translations even show it could refer to skin color, and that it might be pigmentation of the skin, which is kind of interesting. And then Shem, we did a talk about that. I think it's gold on the ceiling.
Gold on the ceiling.
And the term Shem is connected to Shemini.
Something like that.
Which is fame and glory, and what do you know? Here it is. So it's renowned, it's your essence. And so Shem is the good one in this bunch, for sure. Shem is the one that the lineage of Yeshua comes through, and is the one that is considered to have taught Abram or Abraham. So it makes sense that's what his name would mean. And then you have Japheth, and formless expansion, which seems to kind of fit creation and Noah, because this is kind of like another creation that happens.
Yeah, and I think Japheth is kind of the person we know the least about.
Yeah.
So he's very formless, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just threw that in there.
That's good. And then you have in this Noah account that it never rained, and that maybe they only eat plants up until the flood. So, I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's a common point that people make. I don't know that... See, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. So just because he doesn't say they could eat animals before, we know that the plant's diet was something from the garden. But as you may have known from the last portion we talked about, my view of it is that Torah was always. And so if the food laws were always, then...
Right.
Then, all right, so Galatians says the law came because of transgression. Transgression happened in the garden, so then the law came. So that's when I would think that food laws came, because they're sacrificing animals. A lot of the sacrifices for the priesthood involved eating them,
right?
Too.
Yeah.
So,
and some people make an argument that they ate plants up until the sin and up until those first sacrifices in the garden. I've heard that too. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to agree that the law was there from the beginning. It wasn't a new thing. So, but definitely, those are things that people have talked about before. And then another thing that you might not notice, we all have seen the nursery rhymes. Here's a bit of propaganda. Notice how many times when you see pictures and images of Noah's Ark, it's in songs and stories about the animals that came 2 by 2.
Yeah, so my standard question is, hey Matt, how many of each animal did Moses take on the ark?
It depends.
Does it?
Yes.
Give me an answer.
Some animals there were pairs, but it says there were 7 pairs of clean animals. So
you did not catch my trick there. I said, how many of each animal did Moses take on the ark?
Oh, I didn't catch Moses. Yeah.
Got him. And then everyone will say 2, and then you give them the 7, right? So.
Yeah. Once again, the Hebrew hammer strikes again.
That's exactly.
So, but the 7 pairs, a lot of people have missed that. A lot of people who draw these pictures and, but it's another interesting moment. Noah is in some ways like Adam again, because you have this moment where Adam names all the animals and you have to believe all the animals came to him. And, he did. I don't think he became a cowboy and rounded up every animal in the world. I don't think that. I think they literally came to him and lined up in a line. And
he wasn't lassoing crickets.
Yeah, I don't think so. Hey, that could be the title of a podcast or a shirt. So
ooh, I better write that down.
But Noah does seem to have this moment where you envision all these animals just lining up and being obedient, and not all animals were obedient, which is
not at this time,
which is kind of interesting too, to think about that. There were some animals that didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, and the clean and unclean here. There's obviously that was already in
but
place.
Jake, that's before the law.
No, you see, it is. That's the conundrum we find ourselves in.
Yes. And I think that makes a strong argument that the law was already in place, because how does he even know what clean and unclean is? Because that doesn't happen until Moses.
Unless he's
what
playing
people say.
peekaboo with the commands.
Yes. Well, Moses did write this.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but anyway, I do believe they knew a lot more sometimes than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Genesis 6. And so if you've never researched that, you probably should check that out. Who are the Nephilim? In the King James, old King Jimmy calls them heroes of old. Some people could even theorize that these become mythology, or what mythology is based on. I'm not saying that I believe mythology happened exactly like it said, but I do believe that's very possible that mythology could be based upon these legends that happened here.
Yeah, men of renown. Now, I think one of the translations of this is tyrants. Mm-hmm. So it's basically people that were large and in charge.
They weren't good. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they didn't have any. And this is a kid, and as an old traditional church that I was a part of, I was like, heroes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like heroes.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, this
oh,
was
wait.
not a good thing.
He's about to flood all this.
Yes. Which it brings up hero worship of today and superheroes.
Yeah.
And so, you do have to think about, is that okay to be all into the Avengers and these things? I mean, it is just a movie, but is it glorifying these same kind of things? Maybe.
Right. Yeah, what's the glory that it's pointing to?
And first off, let's just face it. The logic of Avengers, especially the one, I'm going to offend some people here, where they're at the airport and they destroy the place trying to save something. I'm like, how did that help? You just destroyed billions of dollars.
Yes,
so.
But the bad guys were going to destroy trillions of dollars.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe so. So anyway, that's irrelevant. So, and you see this concept, did all of creation go bad? And I believe the text says that. And so I have to believe that the plants and the animals and the humans, it was crazy. crazy. So, and then it opens up things like genetic engineering. Was this what made it all go bad? And then I also think you have to go, were these advanced civilizations? I think, you see the people talk about ancient aliens, and I believe there's some truth to what they're searching for, but it's not ancient aliens. It's probably these Nephilim beings.
Ancient Nephilims.
That taught people all of these crazy things. So
yeah, that makes a lot more sense than aliens. Although they probably would have appeared as aliens
if we saw
the
these
people
guys,
of the day.
Well, and if we saw them today, I think it would be very alien-like. We wouldn't know.
Well, because
classify
right, how's it go? The angels came down and
saw the beautiful women and
took
whoever they wanted to.
Yeah, that sounds like alien invasion.
Right, and yes, abduction.
Yeah.
And then Paul refers to it later when he tells the women they should cover their hair. And this is what he's referring to, saying their beautiful hair attracted the angels, and they looked down and were like, whoa, I like that.
Yeah.
And they took what they wanted.
Yeah. And
they says that, there are other accounts. It makes sense. Jack and the Beanstalk, the giant there is a cannibal, you know. It clearly says he's looking for the blood of the Englishman. And so I believe that those stories have nuggets of truth in them going back to this, that those giants probably did eat humans and liked human flesh. And that's why you see so many people after this time into cannibalism, because, if you're so many times in human history, the people want to be like the ruling class. It's like the people down in South America that tried to wrap their heads and cradle the head and get it to the shape of the deities that they were worshiping, which looked very alien-like, by the way. So, and I think that's where all this stuff comes from, that there is some truth to that, but it's not aliens. It is a demonic being.
Yeah.
So.
Bigfoot, anyone?
Bigfoot, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, just throwing it out there.
Yeah. And bottom line is, for sure kick the tires on it, but I also say be careful. You don't want to camp out here and make all of your theology about this kind of stuff, because I don't think that that's a good use of your time.
Yeah.
For sure.
So. The dinosaurs. T-Rex.
Yeah.
If that doesn't look like a genetic mutation with arms that are useless.
That's right. That's right. Well, I've got to make an adjustment here.
Oh, okay.
You might click on the next one.
Okay. Ooh, yeah. So this is kind of the direction of where we see things go after they get off the boat.
That's right. So, and my air conditioner kicked in, and so I think it's going to be loud in the mic.
It's going to drown us out.
So you do see Noah come plant a vineyard, which seems okay. It's like he plants a vineyard. First guy to plant a vineyard.
Yes.
Which kind of makes sense.
So it says, yes.
Mm-hmm. Noah gets drunk and naked.
That escalated quickly.
Yes, it did. Right from the vineyard to being drunk and naked.
Maybe he didn't realize, this is what...
And that's what some people say, that he didn't know. That... maybe this is when alcohol gets... Did Noah invent alcohol? I don't know.
Doesn't say he didn't.
And so you have this weird passage where Ham sees him and gets cursed. And you're like, what?
What is going on?
And you have all these weird things. And so...
Pervy Ham.
Yes. And so either Ham had relations with his mother, or he didn't do what was right and brought shame to his father. Instead of taking responsibility, he just appears to make a joke of this, and be making fun of his father, making a mockery, and maybe he brings shame that way. So, I don't know. There's just definitely some things to think about. I tend to think it was probably a weird sexual thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's different theories about what this verse is actually pointing to Ham doing, and there's spiritual ways of looking at it.
Well, read this one, Leviticus 18.
This is what I always come back to. Leviticus 18, the nakedness of thy father's wife shall you not uncover. So it's commanding you, don't uncover your father's nakedness. It is thy father's nakedness, the uncovering of your father's wife. The nakedness of your father's wife.
And this all refers to sexual relations.
Yes.
This is not literally seeing your dad naked.
Right.
So.
Because, I mean...
Although nobody recommends that.
Yeah.
Nobody... I don't think...
Although if you're a kid, you've probably stumbled into this sin
It might have happened
once or twice.
So, but definitely, something to take a look at and think about. So, and you got to research it, read it yourself, and see what you think. And so, this is in the wrong place. So this is Abraham's journeys.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it didn't make sense.
That makes sense.
So we'll
That
skip
doesn't
on
make
over.
sense.
Skip on over that. And so this is a timeline, and I've realized I have not recorded any of this. This is a timeline of.
Well, you got Seth here,
Yeah.
and it leads to Noah over in this area.
Yeah. It shows you how the lives of all of these guys overlap and interact. And then the next one shows something similar, but shows
Yeah, so
Noah
you have
and
Shem
his father.
coming up to where Noah is.
Mm-hmm. And it is taught often that Shem taught Noah what he knew, and that's how he knew these things. And he's in the lineage, directly bloodline. Wait, we said Shem.
Shem. Wait,
Yeah.
that's not right. Shem's from Noah.
That's right. Shem is from Noah. Shem teaches Abraham.
Yeah.
And so Noah definitely, his life overlapped Methuselah, Seth, and so all of those overlap. And so that is how Noah, Noah was in proximity to these guys. And
Right.
and
He's
they
only
would have
the
taught
third
him.
generation. So
Yeah.
if Adam's walking with Yahweh, clearly he's telling Seth and his kids how to do sacrifices we know of.
Yeah.
And certainly other things. And then straight from Seth, Seth and Noah almost overlap. So it's really close to the beginning of time because of how old these people lived. And so it's not out of the realm to think that Noah had heard these stories from his family.
Yeah. And once again, this came from Adam's synchronological chart.
Yes.
And you can find this, and it's a JPEG, and on a computer you can zoom in and get close using Control minus and Control plus, and it's worth taking a look at. There's a lot of information just looking at the timeline and seeing how their lives overlapped. And so often when you just read the text, you kind of forget maybe, some of this, how overlapping their lives were.
Yeah, it can be confusing of, well, who's alive at the time of who?
Yeah.
Well, whom? Which one's correct? I don't know.
And this shows you how, Methuselah dies right at the flood. The black line is the deluge. And so, Methuselah, we definitely, does it say he was a righteous man? I don't know if it does, but we assume that he probably was. Because he dies before the flood. I think that's kind of a tale that tells you he probably was a good guy, but he was not as righteous as Noah, possibly, because Noah's chosen. Methuselah, maybe he was just too old.
Well, man, he's old.
Yeah, he's real old. And but there's some interesting things with that for sure. But to me, if Methuselah died in the flood, which it is believed that he died, right before.
Yeah.
But if he would have died in the flood, to me that would be judgment.
Right.
Anyway. And Lamech too. So,
I would agree.
But it kind of shows you, a little bit of the timeline and then what happens afterwards. And it shows you Nimrod quickly, is coming out the line of Ham, Egypt, Canaan, so you can, you see a lot of nation building that happens here.
Yeah.
And this is a zoom in after the flood. You got the Tower of Babel, and it shows you kind of the dispersion of the nations. And so something else to think about this is really the first dispersion. We talk a lot about how the Jewish people were dispersed, and we tend to believe, we call them Hebrews or Israel, and this is the first example of
scattering.
A group of people coming in. Noah, his descendants coming into this, and then they're dispersed all over the world. And then we will shortly see Abraham get called out of this group.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cycle. And And so we believe we're in that cycle again where people are waking up to the Torah, waking up to truth, and being called out of Babylon once again, except this time it's different. Where Abraham, it was just one guy. There's lots of us today.
Yeah.
And so this kind of shows you, where the different nations come from, and the descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth in different countries. And so it is believed that from Shem you get the Persians, Assyrians, you get Abraham, you get the Jews, the Lydians, Syrians, and then Ham you get the Babylonians,
Egyptians, Libyans, Phoenicians.
Which
it sounds like all the bad guys.
It does, kind of. And then you got Japheth, who has Germans, the Turks, the Huns, the Finns, the Medes, the Spaniards, Greeks, and the Romans.
The Tartar sauce,
yeah, I'm not sure.
Muscovites, and the Thracians.
Yeah, I don't even know some of these. But, interesting. Definitely a lot in this. And so we just, once again, we want to thank you for taking a minute to listen to our Torah talk.
Yep. And tune in for the rest of them
as
we go.
Talking Torah with Sabbath Lounge. Thank you for checking us out.